Rob, another brilliant day for the pink cars, Sahara Force India. I know you're a fan.
Yeah.
Ocon, Perez, Tom McCullough,
Yeah,
your team.
I love it. And not just me, a lot of people are recognising that this is a proper racing team with proper people in there and doing an honest job, and the success they're having. You look, they came 5th and 6th. All right, it'd be nice if it was higher. They probably could have come higher in different circumstances. But look at the cars and drivers ahead of them. There were 2 Mercedes and a Red Bull, and then it's them. It's a great
Are
result.
you of the school that perhaps Perez should have let Ocon pass, bearing in mind they're on different strategies, or not?
Probably not. You're going to get this from time to time, and
especially if you've got 2 quick drivers in any team, regardless of where you're running in the race, as we've always said.
Yeah, if Esteban had got through, there's no guarantee he would have overtaken Vettel. No. He would have attacked him, but it's pretty difficult to overtake. So there's no guarantee. So I think they made themselves certain of getting both cars into solid points positions.
A difficult race for Seb Vettel. He recovered very well after that, having to come in early for the... Ferrari should have brought him in earlier, obviously, under the safety car. He admits that, but they admit that. But for Kimi Räikkönen, a disappointing day again, because you would think on a day when Seb hasn't things going right, that's a moment for Kimi to come up and have a good, trouble-free race, but it didn't work out.
Well, circumstances got shuffled back at the start, and that could happen to anybody, and does. He then had that moment where he was just trying to get on that throttle a bit too soon, coming out of that corner, ran a bit wide, Perez went through. He was having a shot at it.
This coming on the throttle a bit too soon, we never thought we would ever say that about Kimi 5, 6, 7 years ago, did we? And yet it happens. It used to happen all the time at the hairpin in Canada. This year he didn't spin there. He spun that a couple of years ago in Abu Dhabi in the test. It was a weird thing, and I don't know, with these cars, I was talking to a Mercedes engineer not so long ago about the distance now, basically the smaller the back from the rear axle line, and how much feel the driver now has for the back of the car. The distance is probably greater now than any time in the history of Formula One.
Well, that's a really, really good point, that, because if you cannot feel the car quite as well, then you're reacting to events. I think you need to feel it. And now the Ferrari's a slightly shorter wheelbase, isn't it? So they give them a little bit more feel. But yes, if they're that far away from the rear axle line, it's like towing a trailer or something. You're not going to feel it immediately.
And you've always spoken about the problems of being a hermetically sealed driver, as I think you've explained. The modern racing driver is in this sort of bubble of his own.
It's awful. It's really awful. I mean, I don't race now, but towards the end, you were done up like the Michelin Man. You with the hands device, you can't hear cars. You got people in your radio in your ears all the time. The mirrors, are very, very little use. You got these blind spots, and it's a different game, and it's nowhere near as pleasurable to drive. You jump out of an SLS Merc, even if we're racing at a Bathurst, which is the last time I ever drove a car. Well, then you get into a Lotus 19 at Goodwood. And
you feel the surface of the road.
You feel everything, and you can hear the other cars as well if they're near you, and they're likely to.
But is this any excuse for what happened with Carlos Sainz?
No, that's slightly different. Because that wasn't good. Because he was moving to the right, and it was a right-hand corner coming up. Well, you come out of the right-hand corner, so you'd be on the left-ish, and then you certainly wouldn't be heading to the right to get a better line for the following right-hander. So then he hit Grosjean, and then did it again. I think that's
I mean that and it happened on the straight, and I've always banged on about this. For me, that sort of incident is the worst type we can have in motor racing. Partly because the straights are so quick, and partly because circuit design does not accommodate straights in terms of safety as much as it does corners and braking areas for corners. And I've got to say, it's not the first time I've seen Sainz do that. I was watching at the British Grand Prix meeting a few years ago when he was in GP3, and on the back straight at Silverstone, going down towards the BRDC clubhouse, he was wheel to wheel with Lewis Williamson, and basically just had Williamson off. And Williamson had a massive shunt and just missed the bridge abutment there. And I remember thinking at the time, this was a serious thing. And hopefully that will never happen again in Carlos's career. And yet now he's had 2 incidents on the straight, and that's not a good thing. I'm surprised actually at the leniency of the penalty, because to me that is a pretty serious.
What, to get a 3 grid?
Well, whatever. The sort of thing you get if you got a gearbox change or something. You know, it's not a thing that represents to me the severity of what actually happened there. And he may say he was unsighted, but the point is, why did he? If you're not sure, you don't move. That's what Lewis said. I saw into Lewis before the Canadian Grand Prix about giving Vettel room at in the Spanish Grand Prix going into turn 1.
Yeah.
And he said, well, partly it was because he was slightly unsighted and he didn't exactly know where he was, and so he had to make sure that he didn't hit him. And you know, first lap out of that corner, you know there's going to be somebody on your inside. I mean, why wouldn't you know that?
Well, surely the reason he was moving right, because he knew there was someone there.
Well,
because
why
he was
else would
lining
you
up
do
for
it?
a right-hand corner.
And as for the graphic on the television screen saying incident between Carlos Sainz and Felipe Massa, when quite clearly you could see that it was the Grosjean thing. I don't know what that was all about, but anyway, poor Massa was, on this occasion, was an innocent victim of circumstances. That was very strange, but and very unfortunate for Williams, because as we said, as we were talking about with Lance Stroll, in fact that Williams probably was at least as quick as Force India around there, if not quicker, in race trim as well. So he would have been set up for a good race too.